We'll come back to the science side of it. Here now is a man who has been raised amongst his tribal members, who are the people controlling Mecca of the time. They have the authority over this very crystal clear focal point for the Arab Peninsula. At that time, they were steeped in ignorance. They had some of the worst customs in the world, not the least of which was that they were all alcoholics, most of them. Not the least of which is that they abused women horribly. Women had no rights. Forget about rights. They didn't even have any position. And not the least of which that whenever a girl was born to them, they would take her to the desert and bury her alive in the burning sands. It was pretty bad. Lying was not a big deal. Just don't get caught. Killing somebody was not a big deal as long as it was from another tribe. Muhammad, peace be upon him, was so strange to these people. He was so strange, they gave him nicknames. Even when he was a small boy, he didn't really like fit in. For one thing, he always told the truth. So they called him As-Sadiq. That was his name, which in essence is the very essence of truth or spirit of truth. Another name that he had, Al-Amin, which was what? He was the trustworthy, the one you could give a trust to. He would never violate the trust. He was also known as the one who brings the family together. Whenever there's any disruption, separation in the family, he would bring them together. A counselor. Why am I mentioning this? Well, for those who know something about Christianity, that's exactly what's mentioned in the chapter of John, St. John, the Gospel, 14, chapter 14 and chapter 16. You can read it in there. But let's come back to our subject of science. I want to really stay on that. This man who had never been accused of telling a lie, not once, never had a drop of alcohol, never had a girlfriend, never even kissed any girl except after he got married, and he didn't get married till he was 25. 15 years later, when he was 40, he was fasting. He liked to fast. He liked to go off and be by himself in the month of Ramadan. And he went up on a mountain called Jabal Nur, the mountain of light, which is outside of Mecca. A real strange looking mountain, easy to see. If you ever see the shape of it, when you go there, it just stands out real clear. That's Jabal Nur. And a winding path that goes way up into it, and then there's a cave that kind of goes down a little bit, an open place to go down into called Hira. And that's where he was on this one night, a certain night in the month of Ramadan, a special night called Laylatul Qadr. What happened then, according to his claim, is that while he was alone, fasting and praying, someone entered the cave with him. The angel Gabriel grabbed him, pressed him to his chest, and released him, and then ordered him in the Arabic language, Iqra. He responded and said, La ana biqari. Then he was pressed again to his chest and released, and then ordered again, Iqra. He said, Ana ummi. Then again, pressed to his chest, released him, and he said, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Khalaqal insana min alaq. Iqra wa rabbukal akram. Alladhi alamu bil kalam. Allamal insana ma lam yalam. And these were the first words to come in what we today know as the finished product, the Qur'an. But it didn't come all at once, although the whole entire Qur'an came down on that night, but it was only revealed to Muhammad over a 23-year period, piece by piece, step by step. And the last words that come in there, there was a last chapter that came, which is on Nusra, talking about the Nusra of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Idha ja'a nasrullahi wal fath. And then after that, there was one verse that came, Al-yawmul akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum islama deen. Again, that word deen. The meaning of this last verse, it's in chapter 5, verse 3, and the middle of the verse was already there, and this was to be stuck in the middle of it. And it fits. If you hear it recited, you say, I don't see any problem, but it's talking about halal meat. It's talking about what's halal, what's haram, permitted and not permitted, and then all of a sudden, here's this statement. On this day, I have perfected for you your way of life. Conferred upon you my biggest favor, and chosen for you to submit to me in surrender, obedience, sincerity, and peace. There's your meaning in English, translating the whole thing. Can you imagine this? And right after that, he passed away. That in itself should be a kind of a clue. If you start out, if you understand what I said in English from the beginning, what the angel was saying, and then you hear this at the end, it should be a clue. Again, a human being wouldn't be able to pull this off. They couldn't pull it off because the very beginning thing says, recite. Not read, by the way. Bad translation. It doesn't mean read. It means recite. It comes from qara'a, same root as Qur'an. Nobody says, oh, would you stand up and do the reading for me today? Do you ever say that? They used to say that in English a long time ago. That's why they translated it like that. But today we say, recite for me the Qur'an. We don't say, read for me the Qur'an. Because it is a recitation. This is the recitation which Prophet Muhammad ﷺ heard. He didn't read. Could he read? Well, if you know Arabic, you know he couldn't, because this is what he said. The angel came to him, grabbed him, pressed him, and let him go, and he said to him, recite. He said, I'm not a reciter. He grabbed him again and released him. Recite. He said, I'm illiterate. I don't know how to read and write. Then when he grabbed him the next time and let him go, he said, recite in the name of your Lord who created the human beings from a leech-like clot of blood which clings. Alaqa. One word in Arabic, and look at the meaning. Recite, and your Lord is so bounteous, who taught the human being how to use the pen, taught him what he didn't know. So this brings us to our subject today about science. We're saying here a claim from this book that everything that we know came from him. You and I, we don't know anything except we got it from Almighty Allah, according to Islam. Is there another proof in the Quran about what I just said? يَعْلَمُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُمْ وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ. Allah has full knowledge of everything. Everything that there is, it exists, he has full knowledge of it. Above, below, all around. The whole universe from the beginning to the end is all within the scope of his knowledge. In fact, there's no knowledge except his knowledge, because he is Al-Alim. He is the knowledge. Then he says, and you don't have any knowledge except what he gave you. Clear statement. Chapter 2, verse 255. And that's only part of the ayah. The rest of it's called Ayatul Kursi. You can read it when you have time.